Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you, and welcome back to the ladder, should I say. I'm excited about today's conversation. You know, the ladder is designed to be revelatory conversations that bring elevation to your life and leadership. And everybody needs to engage in some conversations that expand your horizons, expand your thought processes, and prepare you and propel you into the future that God has ordained for you. Listen, I need you to do me a favor. I see a lot of you guys on right now. Go ahead and say hello from wherever you're watching from. Let me know where you're watching from. And then also do me a favor and share this live. Okay. Share and tag with as many people as you can so that they can jump on and be a part of today's conversation, because it is going to be one that I know every single one of you is going to be blessed by. So do me a favor, go ahead while you're jumping on, go ahead and share this with somebody. Good to see you, Mother Joe. So glad to see you on. Good to see you, Angie. Glad you're on. I see you're already tagging. Thank you for doing that. Just go ahead and share this, as many of you as possible. Share this and then holler at me. Let me know where you are watching from. I see some are watching us from YouTube, RJ Matthews TV. Some are watching RJ Matthews right there on Facebook. Some are watching from the Harvest on YouTube. Thank you as well. I see Mr. Wanda Williams. Good to see you. There's my beautiful mother. Happy Wednesday to both of you. It's going to be a good time. So keep on sharing, guys. Tag somebody there in the comments, some more, if you will, and tell them jump on. I really know that this is going to be a great conversation. All right, I see more of you coming on. Keep sharing it as you are coming on. Good to see you, Elder Gwen. Love you much. Glad to see you on. Very good. Keep on coming, guys. Good. I see you, Angie. Keep on tagging them. I see you. Very good. Awesome. Listen, as you guys are coming on, hey, Carla, good to see you. All right, as you guys are coming on, let me remind you guys of a few things. Listen, registration is still open for our Fully Alive Empowerment Conference here in Houston, September 4th through 7th. It's going to be an amazing time. I'm really excited. Such a integration of revival. It's going to be powerful, but it's going to be empowering. I'm excited about some of the conversations we're going to have. Been talking with the team and even fine tuning a few things. And what I believe we're going to be able to offer you and your life is going to be so amazing. We also have a youth and children's edition. So if you're planning to come, you're like, well, what am I going to do with my kids? Okay. We've got a whole Fully Alive experience for them that's going to be life changing for them. That's going to happen on Saturday. But Thursday night, Friday night, you need to be there. For those of you that register, I'm telling you, our early empowerment sessions on those nights are going to be remarkable. So do that. And then, of course, Saturday morning, we've got high impact leadership. The conversations we're going to have around kind of navigating the space that we're in is going to be empowering. High impact economics and entrepreneurship. Going to have a conversation about that. A time of networking for business owners and small business owners. So that's going to be amazing. High impact men. That session is going to be empowering. High impact women, high impact couples, high impact singles. Just going to be a weekend that's amazing. And so we'll close out on that Sunday. So make preparations to be a part of that. I don't want you to miss it. All right. Well, I've given y'all a little bit of time to get on and get in place. Listen, I'm so excited. Last week was phenomenal. We had a powerful conversation to kick off this voice lessons. And let me set a little groundwork so you understand kind of my heart behind this particular series of conversations that we're calling voice lessons. I've been privileged, and I really mean that. I've been so privileged by God to preach this gospel now 27 years that I've been able to preach the gospel. I'm very humbled by it. And there were so many people that marked my journey, invested so much in me to help me become the voice that God has called me to be. I have for a long time had a heart to help other preachers, other communicators, other teachers of the gospel, and then people that are just called to communicate in any form of fashion that uplifts and empowers people. And this has really been in my heart for a while to do. How can we help people discover their authentic voice? I believe something powerful happens the day you become comfortable in your own skin, identify your assignment, your authentic voice, and find the space in the world that your voice is to be heard the best. And so I hope that this is encouraging to people. Some of you are not pastors, but I hope it will encourage how you view and support your pastor. Some of you are pastors, and I think it's important to know that there are other pastors and leaders that may share some of your struggles, that may share some of your strengths, share some of your experiences, and then maybe we can glean from each other, as the Bible says, for iron to sharpen iron. Then really there are aspiring young communicators, preachers, pastors. I really want to speak to you. I want to help pull some nuggets, not just from my own journey, but from people that I know have so much value to add that can hopefully sharpen your tools so that you can be more effective. I believe the more effective our communicators and our preachers are, the more impactful the gospel will be in the lives of people. All right. So with that being said, my guest today, I'm excited about. This is one of my best friends in the world. I consider him a brother, and I really do mean that, a friend and a brother. I was thinking about, we literally have been friends for over 35 years. Like that's a long time. That's a long time. That's a long time to be friends. That means you got to be old enough to know you were friends, right? But not only has been he a friend and brother, but I believe he's one of the most brilliant men and brilliant minds of our generation. And not only is he a preacher and communicator of the gospel, a pastor at heart, a great love for people. He is the former director of race and democracy at the Horizons Project. It just continues to go forth and evolve. And every time we get to check in on each other's journeys, I'm always inspired by what's happening with them. I need everybody to do me a favor, drop some fire down in the comments and help me welcome to the ladder and voice lessons my friend and brother, Reverend Jarvis Williams. My brother,
What's going on, man?
man, I'm doing well. You doing good today?
Man, I'm doing real good, real good. Good to see you, man.
Hey, it's great to see you, man. I'm excited. You and I've been talking about this series of conversations for a while. When I started to kind of have the thoughts, you were really one of the first people I bounced it off of. And so we kind of went back and forth
Yeah,
and I was listening to some of the things and suggestions and ideas that you had about how we can make it even more effective and impact people and make it useful. And so I really, really appreciate you. And I knew from day one, man, just based on our conversations,
yeah,
like I said, man, I can't wait to hear and people allow people to eavesdrop on some of the things that some of our reflections, some of our experiences, and some of our hopes, some of our pains in the process, and some of the weight of responsibility that we feel around it, man. So certainly excited to talk about that. I'm trying to think. I think I want to start here, man. We've been around preaching for a long time. We've been
yeah,
around preaching for a long time.
yeah,
Your father, Dr.
yeah.
Jesse C. Williams, man, whom I love and respect greatly. I don't know if you know this, man. Your dad gave me my first ever laptop.
Really?
He gave me my
I didn't know
first.
that.
He gave me my first ever laptop, and it had this word study. It had, I forget what it was, PC Study Bible, whatever it
Yep, that
was
was
on there.
his thing. PC Study Bible. That was his
Yep,
thing.
yep,
Yep.
PC Study Bible, man. And he gave that to me. I was headed to college, and man,
Wow.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the
Wow.
opportunities he gave me. Every summer, uh,
The
youth
revival.
revival,
Yeah.
Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, coming the week before the summer revival with Dr. Maurice Watson. We'll come in there, man, and he'll let us get in there and practice on the people of God.
Yeah.
But man, we
That's
had some great
funny.
experience. Yeah, man. When you reflect on your journey, and obviously now you're preaching the gospel, man, and pastoring, and just doing great stuff, man. Like, how much did that upbringing shape your your love for the ministry? Because it's obvious the passion you've had for it over these years.
Yeah, man. You know what's so interesting is before a lot of people don't know this. Before my dad confessed his call to the ministry, I had always said I was going to be a preacher growing up. So it was. something that happened to me when I was younger, and then
Yeah.
I backed away from it as I got older, and got more invested in other things. But growing up with someone who was hungry to understand, my dad would listen
Mm.
to tapes of the Bible, going back and forth to the hospital and back and forth to church. And he would listen to sermons. And although as a professional, he was a medical doctor, he was, Reverend James A. Boyd had provided a
Yep.
window to M&I College. And so the idea of a preacher learning, a professional
Hmm.
always learning,
Yep.
always perfecting your craft, was what my dad, and watching him practice ministry in front of me, that's what I think compelled me both to be a perpetual learner and to the hard work behind the scenes of the making of the preacher. What did the preacher
Hmm.
do in private to sharpen their sensibilities, their skills? And so I think that was like the behind the scenes work. And then, of course,
Yep.
watching him bring preachers in and watching us go, you and I went to the convention in,
Yeah, man. St.
was it
Louis.
St. Louis?
Yep. Yep.
And just the exposure, it helped me to see that life and death for a community of people who have been so challenged in the Western world, so much of it has hinged on our ability to speak a word in some of the dark
Ooh.
moments.
Yep.
And you know, I think that the mystery of what God has done in the preacher in Black community is something that still needs to be revered and thought about. So
I totally
that's
agree.
how
Yeah.
I see myself being a part of our story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, man. I love that. As you were saying that, it made me reflect even on those times, man. And as you talk about the mystery of the value of the preacher within the Black community, the story, the struggles, etc. And if you really think about it, when a church is thriving in that context and community, there is a different buzz of hope. There's a different currency of anticipation and expectation. Really, um, the Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And so the faith that is produced within the people under the effectiveness of good preaching and good communication and good leadership creates an elevation of their life experience all the way around. And I can look back to those times and Tabernacle in Macon, Mississippi. Macon's not a large city, but what was happening in those times was larger than the city itself. And I think as we reflect, as I reflect, I know how critical that was to my journey. Like that
Mm,
was honestly preaching there was the highlight of the summer. Like it
mm.
was, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was, it was like, man, we get to go preach at Tabernacle, Dr.
Yeah.
Williams, and man, we thought I was so grateful and what we were able to see, the impact that was made. And one of the things I think is critical is that when people see ministry, they have to understand it ebbs and it flows. And and you have to always understand the value of what happens in those seasons, man. There are people
Mhm.
serving God today because of those times. People saved today because of those revivals. People impacted today. And even if we can't remember every word spoken, we remember the impact made. And man, I just think that's such a powerful thing, man, just to be able to reflect on that. So shout out to Dr. Williams too, man. Cause I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
man, I think, man, I just, man, I would hope, man, the footprint God allowed him to make,
Mm.
um, in that area and among people and preachers and his belief in young people. The other part is this, because we're gonna talk about us too, man. But I don't know. I just in my heart to
Yeah. Sure.
just lean into that for a moment, man. I
Sure.
feel like he loved people.
No question.
You know what I'm
No
saying?
question.
Just a pastor, man. You would see him when the services would get good and they'd be powerful. He'd be down there sitting the
Yeah.
arm around somebody standing down at the altar. He got proud. He walk around, we up preaching. And once he
Yeah.
trusted us good,
He'll call you down if you didn't do right now. He'll pull you down
listen,
if you
listen. Once he trusted us good, man, he wouldn't even sit in the pulpit no more once he trusted us.
right.
You know, he had to stay
Right.
close enough at first to yank us out if we
Right.
ain't do something right. After that, man, it's in y'all's hands now. Y'all got it. He would go sit up in the balcony
Yeah.
while we were preaching. And I think, Jarvis, I think one of my heart to serve young preachers and preachers now comes from how well people like him treated us.
No question.
You
No
know what I
question.
mean? Like
No
gave us
question.
opportunities. We can't act like we came out these theologians with so much homiletical brilliance that we just deserve these opportunities. And they
Right.
had to deal with some D minus, F minus deliveries,
Right. Right. You're learning. Right.
while we were growing. And I will forever cherish those types of investments too. Let me lean to the next question for you, man.
Yeah.
So so you mentioned early on, you had said, so even before you started pastoring, you're like, I'm gonna be a preacher when I grow up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When when did it become that inescapable reality for you? When did you know, okay, I can't act like this is not on me. I got to do this.
So it's a phenomenal question, and you might know this. I think I was playing around with the call through high school,
Hmm. Hmm.
but in U-turn, you remember U-turn
I do.
at Columbus High School,
Okay.
where you was preaching, and I remember, and I used to always you and I used to joke about when people would tell the story about David and the youngest son of Jesse.
Yep.
I used to always say that every time I hear that, my brain starts, going down a pathway when I think
I
about,
remember that.
of son of Jesse,
Yeah.
and my mind just kept leaping back and forth. So I thought about it, but at U-turn, it became clear. So shout out to your investment in U-turn, and for
Appreciate
all
that.
those who made that possible. It
For
became
sure.
clear to me that I had a larger responsibility in the faith community. Wasn't all the way sure about preaching, but it was clear that it was not just to be a drummer.
Hmm.
And then I think college was rough for me. And
Yep.
maybe my junior year, 2000, so this year makes 20 years. In
Wow.
2005 was when I began, September 2005.
Wow.
And it was in college. I had got it invited to play at Mississippi State and
Hmm.
tore my foot up, and then I had uh, a grade challenge, so I had to go back up to East Mississippi where I played, and they needed to change one credit because I did an art credit, and and I remember the guy at East Mississippi uh, who had no fight in the game was like, "Well, you should have knew better. Just, sorry, we can't help you." And I remember leaving there thinking, he could have changed that grade and I could have played at Mississippi State because I was trying to prove I could still do it. I didn't have the passion for it, but I just wanted to prove that
Yep.
I remember leaving there and I was like, man, and I kind of remember God saying, you got other work to do. Um, you got other work to do. So my junior year, first year at Mississippi State,
Yep.
after I couldn't play basketball over a technicality, I surrendered and was like, okay, God, what is this? And September, I was preaching my first sermon.
Wow. Now,
Yeah,
now I got to throw this out here now.
yeah,
I'm gonna do some brother combo now. I'm gonna do.
yeah.
Man, I remember as a brother watching that journey, like
Yeah.
watching you wrestle against what I knew you'd never win in.
That's one way of putting it.
like your arms too short to win in a wrestling match against God. It's just not gonna work, right?
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
watched you more than anything, man. I knew the sincerity and the depth of how God was dealing with you, right? And so as we, we went together to revivals I was preaching at. When there
Yeah.
was Tabernacle, other places, you were right there with me, man, and we were able to see God do some great stuff. And I remember the first time we were in these revivals, and you start giving these lectures.
The
I said,
lectures.
he just gonna practice at everything. And he said, let me just test this water a little bit. If it go well, I think I'll jump on in here. If not, I just say I'm lecturing anyway. But I watched it, man. So
Oh, that's funny.
and I watched, and you and I talked about this. I remember your first sermon, and man, just as a brother, there's a natural pride you feel, man, to watch you stand there
Mm,
behind that sacred desk, man, having watched you. Because sometimes the other thing is, sometimes there is a reality where we're like, God, I ain't really ready to try to really ready to step into that responsibility. And sometimes it's respect for the call,
right.
the
Right.
respect for the call that will make when people say I'm running from a call. Sometimes
Right.
it's respectful, and other times it's wrestling with, as we've seen in scripture so many times, the feeling of inadequacy
Right.
when it comes to the sacredness of this calling, right?
Right.
And what we're called to do. And I watched you grapple with that, man. And on that first sermon, man, I saw you unpack grace
Mm.
with such precision and such depth. I thought to myself, man, the body of Christ is in trouble in a good way, right, man? You unpacked it, man, and so I just thought it was powerful. And I mentioned this to you that I saw, and I even see now in a lot of our interactions and how, and our lenses, even how that grappling with the grace of God,
Mm.
right, has shaped you and your ministry and your perspective, right? Can you talk about that a little bit, like how it shaped you and then how it now affects how you do ministry and even how it affects the preacher and how people should perceive the preacher?
Yeah, man. It's what's so interesting, and this is kind of story that I wouldn't tell to many people, but for this platform, it's useful. I grew up feeling like I lived in a glass house and feeling like no one ever saw me.
Mm,
They they saw Dr. Williams' son, they saw Diane Williams' son, they saw Jesse's brother, they saw Jason, they saw basketball, but just not me. And there was a certain kind of aloneness that I felt I kind of traveled through high school with. I was
mhm,
around people I could smile, but internally alone. And now what becomes interesting is I felt that God was a friend of mine, even when I didn't think I had a lot of people invested in me. And people
mm.
were crazy. Like, I don't want to tell like it's not a sad story, but there was something else happening to me that there was a kind of distance that I couldn't connect with people the way I wanted to. Um, so fast forward, the sermon is about this writer who feels so unworthy, and he feels like the people who are doing it in front of him, he doesn't fit in their company. So Paul is writing about all these people whose calling he didn't get, whose access he didn't get, whose baggage he carries they didn't carry, and then he's injects himself into a role, and then he still feels incompetent. So he then tries to justify he belongs by trying to outwork everybody.
Come on, man.
And
Yeah.
that was that was me.
Hmm.
So reading everything, going to listen to the sermons, traveling to the river, I felt like I didn't belong. And so I was determined to just outwork everyone in ministry. I was going to
Hmm.
read everything. I was going to go to different things. I was going to try to figure it out. And now, even to this day, I think that bug is still a part of me.
Hmm.
There's a certain hesitancy with me that I'm always trying to do my due diligence before I project myself into the world in a way. And I'm usually encouraged by friends and loved ones to step out faster than I'm usually wanting to, because there's a certain level of respect to the craft, to those who are doing the craft, that I'm sensitive to.
Mm.
But that's been me, and it's that understanding of grace even now, where I inject myself into the world, into geopolitics and all the things, because it's a testament to what I heard and what I tried to say in 2020, 2005, that
Yeah,
by the grace of God, I am what I am.
I am what I am, but I am what I am.
I am what I am.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's powerful, man. I want to lean into that because I want to get into also in just a moment, get into what you're doing now
Yeah.
and how that calling began to take shape, how you gained clarity on that. But I want to lean into something I think is really, really
Yeah.
interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You talk about how this feeling of not belonging, this feeling of, okay, trying to find my space. I know I'm
Yeah.
called to this, but I wasn't around when they got this calling, and I've got this. And Paul uses it and says, therefore, basically, like you said, I'm going to outwork. I'm going to, by the grace of God, I'm going to labor even more.
Hmm.
It made me think about the blessing of thorns.
Hmm.
There are these certain challenges, these certain inadequacies, these certain, in the world they call it, there are certain things that put a chip on your shoulder. Now, and
Yeah.
it can have a negative connotation if you take it that way. For Jacob, it was a limp. For Moses, it was a speech impediment. For David, it was his youthfulness, and
Yeah.
so for everybody, there's this thing grind to the grace,
Hmm.
and so navigating how as a I want to encourage you just think through how can a person use what is seen as a deficiency or seen as a weakness or seen as a scar, seen even as we talked about last week, seen as pain. How do you leverage that? And how much have we seen that leverage into someone becoming far more effective than they would have been without that impediment?
Yeah, man.
Now, this is what we do on the phone, y'all. This is the kind
Yeah.
of stuff we
Listen.
kick
Right.
around on the
It's what we
phone.
say. Yeah. It. There is a tendency, and I think you would appreciate this, because the seduction of preaching and the seduction of being in a position of some authority
Hmm.
has an underside to it, and it's so easy to think more highly of yourself than you should. It's so easy
Yep.
to elevate your worthiness because the echoes you're hearing are only
Hmm.
about how great you are. And I think once you listen to the cloud of witnesses that you're joining,
Hmm.
they keep trying to tell us it's not you, but the grace of God working in you.
Yep.
And, but it's a stubborn lesson, because we want to bathe in what the people can see, and only in what they can see.
Come on.
And sometimes we lose sight on what God sees.
Yes, sir.
And
Speak, man.
he sees the pain, he sees the frustration, he sees the hypocrisy, he sees the
Hmm.
contradiction. And so the other thing is, I think, and this is probably growing up the way I described, in a glass house. I know what it's like when people are making a mockery of what they see in you. I felt like our family was targeted for a lot of reasons. My dad, a doctor, my mom, my brothers. So we had a different journey. And people were unkind to what they perceived we were, what we wanted to be, all the things. So I I really I took to heart that if these people who are using their voice to try to serve God and using their life, if they are all also saying that
Hmm.
they feel so incompetent, that they
Yes.
carry such weight, that they have such a struggle, the thing I should do, I don't do. I
Hmm.
took that stuff to heart because I was like, there's all kinds of stuff, there's all kinds of stuff I should be doing
Yeah.
that I want to keep doing.
Yeah.
And and it just became a way to kind of to calm myself down. And I
Yeah.
never let those praise get louder than the reflections that I knew God saw with my struggles. And my dad was useful in that. And my mom was useful in that, where people, the older preacher would say, and I know we say these things now because it seems like it's, cute phrases, but there was so much wisdom in what preachers were trying to do. They would
Yep.
say, hide me
Ooh, come on, bro. Come on, bro.
behind the cross, right?
Yep.
And you would pray, Lord, you increase as I decrease,
Yep.
or let the words of my mouth
Yeah,
and
man.
the meditations of my heart just be acceptable in
Yep.
thy sight, right?
Yeah.
Those things carry the weight
Yes,
of a
sir.
conflicted human being trying to give their best and their baggage to God, hoping God
Come on.
can. And I've always understood I come with baggage.
That's powerful, man. No, I think that's powerful because it is one of the challenges of walking out the call. And I think the other thing, when you grapple with the grace of God, it when you have those reflections, and when there's a reach from your heart to God, where, like you quoted with Paul, like, Lord, when I would do good, evil is present. The thing I don't want to do, I do. The things I want to do, I don't do. Then you start to think, and I guess you see how Paul gets to the space where he is so grateful to he wrote to Timothy. He said, I thank God who enabled me and counted me faithful and put me in the ministry. Like, he didn't say perfect. He said faithful. he said you just keep showing up. You just keep showing up. And I think that is such a critical part of the journey, man. And I even, when we think about those older pastors, though, that wisdom, and there's so much that you are thankful for when you look at them. One of the things that, now, you and I, interestingly enough, as we've evolved and grown in our calling, you know I jokingly talk about how growing up you could tell when somebody was called to preach, because in like 7 days their whole dialect changed.
That's so true. That's so
Back then, man, they went from "What's up, bro?" to "Doc, how you doing?" All that mean. Everybody, you can tell. All right, he been to Preacherville. Okay, that's what that is.
right,
All right,
right, right.
but behind it was a certain awareness of the dignity of the call,
Yeah,
and it really was, and it really is, our human frail attempts to honestly show the respect and reverence we should to the calling that we've been so graciously given by God.
right.
And those things are critical. I want to talk about this. I want to lean to seminary as well in a moment.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about mentorship.
Hmm.
I want to talk about mentorship. How critical has mentorship been to you in your development?
Man, that probably
Mhm.
is the saving grace for me in so many ways.
Wow.
Um, so there's a kind of mentorship of how to be comfortable in public, right?
Okay.
And in that sense, my mom is one of my key mentors who helped me get comfortable in my skin,
That's good.
right?
Yep.
There were mentors when I played the drum, and they taught me how to be competent giving my talents to God in public, right?
Hmm.
So there would you practice, you work hard, and then you might mess up, but your job was to do your best, to be try to be excellent at your craft.
Yep.
And if you brought that to the table, that would God can work with that. That was the way that they
Yep.
would say.
Yep.
But so there were mentors who taught me elements along the way. But
Hmm.
when I first made the commitment to do ministry and to pursue it, my dad, before I graduated college, he comes to my apartment and was like, "Are you serious about this ministry thing?" I'm like, "Yes, sir." He was like, "Okay, well, pack up and go to seminary." He's like, "Because if you're going to do this as a profession, you need to be the best you can be." And the way he had understood working toward being your best was to go and get seminary training.
Absolutely.
He encouraged me, and at the time I was unclear of the value, but he encouraged me to go. And when I got to seminary, I ran into models of leadership. I
Hmm.
ran into people who served God with their mind at a level I hadn't seen. I got access to the papers and the sermons of your Gardner Taylors, and you got a chance to hear Williams Borders, and you start listening to these voices, Jeremiah Wright,
Hmm.
and my world expanded. And
Yeah.
from that on, I work hard to keep my ear in earshot with other male, female leaders of ministry who can whisper words of wisdom to me
Hmm.
as I'm still trying to walk by faith. But it was critical because the other thing mentors help you do, they help you to get humble. They help you stay humble.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
help you. You preach a sermon and people are like, "Ooh, that's so good. That's so good." And then you go to your mentor and they was like, "Yeah, that was not that great."
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
But yeah, man, mentors. I I really love what you're doing here because there are a lot of people who don't have access to people who have the time and energy to spend with them to help them. And one of the things that you're doing, and we need more people to do it now because ministry is challenging,
Yes,
is
it
to
is.
try to help people to see what the real work looks like. Not the
Yeah.
sermon alone, not the prayer, not the suit, not the authority, not the title, but what happens the day to day work, the nightly prayer, the midnight
Hmm.
cry, the confusion of reading, the newspaper article, the people in your congregation who are upset with you and fussing and frustrating you, and you still have to go out and preach to them and not fuss, but you have to give a word. Like all of the development and the
Yeah.
psychological discipline and the ethical aspirations you ought to strive toward. That's the part that it goes missing so oftentimes in when people have these conversations. So I really hope I labored on the point because I hope people who are listening to this and I hope this platform you're creating becomes a way that they can hear things that a lot of preachers passed on to people like ourselves, but
Absolutely.
they not have access to those models right now.
For sure. And I definitely appreciate you leaning into that. I think, the value of seminary. You and I had conversations, and we would do book recommendations, as everybody can see right over his right shoulder right there, are just a few of the books he's probably reading right now, as we speak, but always sharing that. And I want to encourage pastors, leaders, anybody who seeks to be effective in what you believe God's called you to do. Connect your life with people who are serious about that craft as well. I'm grateful that God has blessed me with a brother like Jarvis as well. That when we talk, we can laugh. There's so many things we laugh. We can talk about all of that, but there's always a moment and time spent in inspirational thought, um, walking through how we're interpreting the times, how we're interpreting the responsibilities that we've been given, and how we can further develop ourselves and others to operate and exist within these realities. So I just want to encourage the cultivation of good relationships. You know, we're blessed to have 35 years of being connected, and I'm grateful for
Mhm.
that. I see Pastor Timothy Bourne on. Good to see you, sir. Uh, I appreciate you taking a moment. I know this is back to work season for you, so I just want to honor you and the work you're doing, Pastor Timothy. So thank you for jumping on, even just for a few moments. I appreciate you. I want to lean into this.
Yeah.
Now you have stepped into, and for some time have been in the geopolitical space, social justice space, and it's always been a leaning. When did you know? Because typically somebody receives a call to ministry to preach. We've seen the traditional lens of there is a trajectory towards, if you're good at this, you could
Yeah.
possibly be a pastor,
Yeah.
and there is a world that it looks like. Okay, all right, I'm gonna do this. Okay, by that time, all right, I do well. Put my name in a couple hats. Maybe end up in a church, lead there, try to do some things in the community there. You know, if I'm a good preacher, communicator, people may invite me in to do some revivals, and that is a successful assignment. If that
Yeah.
is that person's assignment, it really, really is. And thank God for the people that God is using that way. You had the courage, the audacity, um, and the sense of calling, I would imagine, to realize the work I'm called to do is not limited, though, to this church space. What brought you to that awareness, and how has that journey uh, evolved for you?
No, it's a great question. I Some of it is that seminary helped me to get a different interpretation of what it meant to do the work. So
Good.
that was the piece of it. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing was, once from so pastoring in Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to see the patterns of oppression, the rituals of discrimination,
Mm-hmm.
and people would come to church and ask God for help, but it wasn't God; it was the legislator that was defunding things that they cared about. It
Ooh.
wasn't. It was their inability. I tried to make this case when I went to Missionary Union Baptist Church. We was at home, and I said,
Yeah.
Jesus makes it. We're talking to a religious audience, so preachers, you appreciate this. Jesus makes a case to Peter. He says, Satan desires to sift you as wheat, but I prayed for you. And what I loved about the passage is that Jesus has insight into what Satan's up to, that he's interpreting what the enemy is up to in his world.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized pastoring that there were enemies afoot that I could see, but I couldn't address them accurately in the way and with the resources I had. So going to
Good.
school and grad school and was a way to get better tools so I could address the enemies that were stealing, killing, and destroying that the congregants may not have been able to name.
That's awesome.
And so that's in that's really how I see my work in the public space. I'm diagnosing what the enemy's doing,
Mm-hmm.
trying to intervene, and I'm trying to educate people of what the enemy's up to. I'm trying to distinguish between what the enemy is doing and what might be natural occurrences of being human.
Yeah, it's
And then
good.
I'm trying to leverage the wisdom that comes from our tradition. W.E.B. Du Bois says in the book Souls of Black Folks, there's a chapter of the faith of the fathers. He says the Negro preacher is the most unique personality
Yeah.
on American soil. And when I started to recognize how much I saw that I didn't think anybody else was saying in public, I just made up my mind. I'm going to go and get the tools so I can go try to say what I see. And you'll get a kick out of this. When I was in Mississippi, I was talking about race. I was race and the religion. I was every Sunday morning I'm saying something, and my church was like, "Why are you so racist? It's so racist." And
Yeah.
but here we are in 2025, and race and religion is a watershed problem in this country.
Hmm.
And what people are now saying is a problem, I was trying to name it then. And so you start to say, okay,
Yeah.
that's the role. Like that's you're trying to sound the alarm
Yes.
that religion has become a vehicle in which racist ideas travels in this country. And the preacher, the real preacher,
Hmm.
has to be able to discern what the enemy is doing, even in the church, even with the religious language, the
Yep.
Judas type, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
serve them, but you got to see them.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's
I love
really
that.
a way of me articulating what I'm up to in the world. Public policy, trying to figure out what the legislators do. You're trying to figure out what the enemy might be doing. And I don't mean enemy along only racial lines or only class lines, but when the will of the human spirit is bent toward dishonoring God's children, the
Yeah.
manifestation of that is we hurt people that we don't have to hurt, and we steal things we should be sharing. And anytime you see those patterns, it's for me an indication of what Satan's desires run amok in human affairs looks like.
I love that, man. I want to lean into that a little bit more because this is where um, much there's conflict in the body, there's controversy over these type conversations to a certain extent, and I think some
Sure.
of it is based upon a lack of understanding in some cases, right? So, for example, you said the people that you are preaching to, and you are passionately proclaiming this on their behalf, on God's behalf, for their good, should I say. God is giving you insight into this, and there's so much in what you just said. Like there were so many bombs going off, I had to choose which one I was going to pick up, right? So many bombs, but here you are. God has made you an intercessor for these people, a watchman who must see and proclaim, and you're doing your best to declare that. Um, and I value that and I celebrate that. And I think that that is powerful. Sometimes what happens when people have the type of call that you have and the type of call that, and then not only that to see it, but to step into these spaces, sometimes we misunderstand it. Was, oh, why are they talking about this? Why are they taking that standpoint?
Yeah.
Or why are they taking that stance? God wants us all together, and we are there is no race. There's one race. And obviously
Yeah.
we are all children of God, and we understand the spiritual ramifications of that. But
Yeah.
we live in a very practical world where these things are transpiring. And we're not to put our head in the sand. And the reality is, you and I've talked about this over the years. I am blessed to have, and same as you, I'm blessed to have friends and relationships, both black, white, Asian, Hispanic, etc., in the ministry context
Yeah.
with varying political views on things. I think what has helped me to be in some of those spaces was to try to sit, to listen, to understand, and even where I may have an opposing view, my willingness to listen may give me an opportunity or window to understand how to interject my idea in a way that may shape consciousness for somebody. But I said that to say, when you hear a pastor, a preacher, a man of God that is called, and their primary work is to work in the space of ministering to African Americans, ministering to Black people in the Black community, To hear them face or deal with these issues is not an indication of their racism or any reverse racism or them trying to promote ideas that are anti-biblical. What you need to pause to try to seek to understand is, as a shepherd, they would not be worth their salt if they did not care for the ills, the issues that are plaguing their people.
Right.
What I respect is you were able to see it and realize, yes, I am crying in the wilderness, but I need the tools that will help me do something about this and even be more clear in what I'm attempting to articulate. And I applaud you for doing the work there. And the other bomb that I guess I'll grab because we're close to it, that you dropped, it made me think about the fact that you were willing to make a pivot from the pulpit on purpose. Like you pivoted from a pastorate, from that space. You didn't just say, okay, I'm gonna just stay here, because you could have. You could have said, well, I'm gonna just do
Yeah.
this. But it seemed to me that awareness of your calling and that work God had called you to do demanded so much of you that you needed to devote yourself on another level to move in that space. And that I applaud. And I speak to that for the sake of those who have callings that are watching us right now, that you may find yourself, and the work you have done has been primarily in the pulpit. One of the reasons I titled this, What in the World is the Preacher to Do, is for this very point that we've come to. Because we are in a moment where what we say, it's always been significant. The soteriological aspect of what we do, the salvation part of what we do, is eternal. It's significant, and we have to do that. But I had somebody say this to me one time. They said, hey, you need to preach the social gospel. And I laughed when we talked about it, because I understood what he meant, but I was, joking back and forth with him. I said, or maybe I need to help people understand the social ramifications of the gospel. I don't have to put anything in front of the gospel. I have to understand how those realities fit within the context of the gospel, because the gospel is a whole lot more expansive than what we realize.
Right.
Because in Matthew, he talks
Right.
about, I was hungry and you fed me.
Right.
I was thirsty and you gave me to drink. I was naked and you clothed me. I was in prison and you visited me. And he literally deals with the judgment he's going to place on nations for how they handled him in them.
Right.
And so one of the things that we've dealt with is, man, like, as preachers then, what is our responsibility? Communicators of the gospel, pastors, preachers, to God, to the people, and to the times in which we live. Now, this is where it gets good.
This is where the rubber meets the road, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let me start it this way. For all the listeners, if you get
I'm just going to tell y'all now, we might go a little past one today, because this is a whole thing here.
I will be short. For those who get a chance, go to Montgomery, to the Equal Justice Initiative Museum. There's when you go to one of the sites, it's an outdoor siting where you can travel like a little pathway and you see markers. There are laws that are on the books, and the one that they had posted, RJ, was Mississippi. It was against the law for an African American, at the time, a Negro, to preach. Now, if you look at the history of African Americans in this country, we couldn't preach because whites said God could not be talking to the Negro preacher. Didn't exist. And so we come up in a culture that did not see anything divine in us, and definitely didn't believe God could say something to us that God hadn't already cleared with them. Now, I start there because I'm from Mississippi, and I grow up with a call, knowing the history was that the law said I was unqualified legally to preach the gospel. Now, what does that mean as you come to see yourself as a preacher? One, you ought to know the history of the world your calling emerges in.
Hmm.
You can't separate the world you're in from the call you have. I
Come
was
on, man.
called in Mississippi,
Yeah.
where the law steals on the books that I'm not supposed to be preaching. I'm called. And then you say, okay, what has the preacher been up to in Mississippi? And why does the preacher sound different and talk different and act different? And as you learn, you start to hear that there are historical social indicators and realities that the preacher has to deal with. Now, I'm going this way because if you skip the history,
Hmm.
you can get into a very cheap conversation about what God called me to do, and I'm just going to do this preaching, and I'm just going to do over here, and I'm not going to worry about this. But when you're called in a valley of dry bones, you
Hmm.
have a responsibility to know how the bones got dry. When you're called in moments of chaos, you have a responsibility to know what Herod did to the other boys that were growing up with you, who lost their life because power got nervous. You have a responsibility to know who was in the crib next to you, Moses, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you take that serious, then how you come to exercise your voice should be responsible to the world you came up in.
Hmm.
And you have a responsibility to address the world as it is so that it might become what you hope it can be. I'll say
Absolutely.
this in a moment where, and I know we got to go, in a moment where the nation is reconsidering the ethical guidelines upon which it stands.
Hmm.
For decades, the engineer of the better future was articulated by a preacher.
Come on, man. Come on.
So, a nation who said it was unlawful for a Negro to preach has to hear a preacher inspire a nation about a world that it had not yet been able to get its hand on. And we enshrine from the Negro preacher who was not supposed to be preaching by law what the blueprint for the future ought to look like. Imagine that. And so I'm bringing that context
Yeah.
to say, be responsible.
Yeah.
Be responsible for what God has done in America, good and bad. And when you own what it has done, what it has been, the up, down, the bigotry, the preacher who said it can't be a female preacher because they're doing to that woman the same thing that the whites did to Negro preachers. Why is it that a human community has the definitive say on who can say a thing by because God called them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That history gives you guiding ideas to order your
Mm.
steps. And back to the point, you can bring your best and your social baggage and do ministry. And if you're not bringing your social baggage, you're probably not doing ministry.
Brother, listen. All right. I already know how much everybody. Well, y'all, please. I appreciate the updates. Y'all dropping fire and exclamation points in the comments because I know. Listen, I'm sitting over here because I set that up because I knew that was about to get real good. Um, we are taught in the practice of preaching in hermeneutics to understand the context of the times that the author was writing to. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's a critical piece. So we hermeneutically know. that a part of the science of interpretation is I need to study what was the original intent of the author to that audience.
Yeah.
We study manners and customs to know what was happening in that time. We look at commentaries and all of that to understand the times that they were speaking to. I'll give this preaching point to someone, and hopefully it may be helpful. When you have the capacity to connect the realities of what was happening in those times and the original intent of the message God spoke through those messengers to those people in those times, and then you can connect it to the similarities of the times in which you live and bring divine truth to these present moments, there's a prophetic dynamic to your preaching that you will immediately sense, because you're able to now, uh, as Isaiah was looking into the people of that time while hearing what God's antidote was for the audience and the situations they were facing. And then you're able to connect it to this audience that you are speaking to and the similarities of those times. Here's something that's important to remember. There's nothing new under the sun. What will be has been. So there are nuggets of this. That's why oftentimes we'll pull on the narrative of the children of Israel, Moses, his responsibility when you're speaking to liberation and deliverance and how God moves amongst a people, because we're looking at the similarities of those times while looking at the reality of the times in which we live. And what did God say? What was the truth God spoke? And then how is God now inspiring us to communicate that truth to these people? So that's just hopefully, I think that's a part of how we practically do for those who will stand in the pulpit on a weekly basis. We practically do that. And where I was going with it is the same way we have to study the context in which they spoke and wrote by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. We have to also study the context of the times in which we live. While I like the way one of my friends says it, we watch the news with the Bible in our hands.
Right. Right.
We assess the times, and we're asking God, how should I speak to these times? And the last thing I'll say about that I think is very powerful. I love the way you frame that. You know, we listen to the voice of a Negro preacher who was not supposed to be legally able or qualified to preach. And that message of what the dream should be for America, that blueprint, was given by that voice and that preacher. And I'm reminded of the prophet Habakkuk, who
Mm.
in chapter 1, verse 1, it says, the burden of the Lord that came to Habakkuk.
Mm.
And so he starts talking about all the things he saw in his time. Da, da, da. Then you get to, we like to quote chapter 2 because he says, write the vision, make it plain.
Right. Right. Right.
Before there was a vision to see, there was a burden that was felt.
Mm. Mm.
And understanding the times, feeling the pains and the plights of people, what it
Mm.
does is the burden pushes me to pray. The burden pushes me to study. The burden pushes me to posture myself. Watch what Habakkuk says. He says, I'm going to set myself on the rampart to see what God will say to me. I'm going to position myself in a way that I can get a message for the moment that I am in to speak to these people. And I will not articulate the vision before I have really assessed the burden that I've been given. And we need leaders, preachers who carry a burden.
Mm. Mm.
Ministry apart from a calling is not a good career choice. Don't let people fool you. It's
Right.
it's 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 not. It's not. No, the vast majority of people that are preaching the gospel and doing this are not. Let me say it. It's not lucrative, okay? It is a was it Bonhoeffer who said when God calls a man, he bids him to come and die?
Mm.
It
Mm.
is that. It is a burden. It is inescapable. It
Yeah.
is the walk between gratitude and grief, blessing and blood. It really is. It is this great reward while you walk through great challenge, and you walk hand in hand by faith, believing that what God has called you to do
Mm.
is worth it. And so My brother, I appreciate that. I want to give you final words to preachers, man. Final
Yeah.
words. If you could drop some thoughts that you would believe would empower us to be effective in carrying out our responsibilities in these times, what would you share?
Yeah, well, man, this has been fun. We have to we have to do this again. This is
We
fun.
have to. We have to. Yep.
This is a good moment. My first thing would be we need to work to redeem the image of the preacher as
Good.
a serious thinker,
Yeah.
teacher, leader.
Yeah.
We have allowed, and it's not. There are some factors that ministers have contributed to, but
Yes.
there's been a severe decline in the integrity of what happens in the pulpit. And I want young preachers to aspire to be serious, to be thinking, to be thoughtful, to
Yeah.
bring intelligence into the pulpit, to communicate truth at a depth, read widely, study rigorously. That would be the image of the preacher. We need to work to redeem that image.
I love that. I love that.
That would be my first like point. If we could, as a community, start highlighting serious preachers, start sitting people down who are making a mockery of our sacred traditions, that would go a long way. The second thing I think
Yep.
would be there is a certain kind of emotional maturity that the preacher needs to continue to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Social media sometimes, and I see people lashing out and saying all kinds of things, and I remember a preacher telling me, a mentor, that the preacher, particularly a leader, has to be responsible for everything that comes out of their mouth in public. And Paul put it this way: it's not just whether or not it's sin. Will it be a stumbling block to people?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yep.
So the standard for and that's tied to the image. We need to demonstrate integrity and maturity,
Mm-hmm.
not perfection, but maturation. We shouldn't be as unstable emotionally as sometimes I think we show ourselves to be. And then the last thing I'd say is we need to check the idea that a good preacher is the one that people want to hear. Preaching, the litmus test of good preaching isn't, it can't only be that people want to hear it. The book itself helped us to see that it ought to draw some people and it ought to drive some people away.
Yep.
And if we reduce the standard of preaching to the sound of a crowd, I think we'll lose the prophetic gift that God has given to those who, even legally, we say it should never be able to whisper in God's name. And I don't want us to forfeit our prophetic birthright over a mess of pottage.
Mic drop, man. Mic drop. My brother, man, I appreciate you so much, man. This conversation, they responded, man. I wanted to put some of those, Pastor Takia, as you spoke to her. I aspire to be serious.
Hmm.
Megan McCarter, she just saying she dropped one, speak, then point two, speak again, and then yeah, man. Pastor Carla Randall right there. Vision and purpose must be birthed out of a God-given version, a burden, excuse me.
Hmm.
Just such rich insight, man. Such meaningful thoughts that you've given to us today. And I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the voice that you are. I appreciate the voice that God has made you, that God is making you. I pray that even the more God would give ears and audience to hear those things that He's given to you to say that are necessary to these times and even in the moments to come. I really believe that not only in these times, but times to come, man, we will see some of our most essential and effective work be done. And I'm honored to run with you in this work. And
Yeah, man.
yeah, I'm even more honored to call you my friend and brother in the journey, man. So I love you
Likewise.
much, man. I appreciate you, my brother.
Likewise. Hey, till
All right.
next time. And
Absolutely.
let me say this, and before I know we got to go, but um, I hope that the platform and people who have resources can invest, because there ought to be somewhere where we can go and talk. And I just want to honor the vision God has given you in this space, because God knows we're going to need to be able to talk to each other. And we
Absolutely.
need to talk to each other in ways that resonate with what we are up against. And so, man, I hope the whole platform pray for you, for strength, for vision, for clarity, for your family, for your life,
Thank you.
because it is lonely and painful being a visionary,
Mm,
but somebody has to do it.
amen. I
Love
receive
you,
that, my
brother.
brother. Love you too, man. I appreciate you, brother. Listen to everybody. I know you guys have been so blessed, man. I'm so thankful uh, for Reverend Jarvis Williams, my friend and brother, who just poured. Listen, I know you got gold. Do me a favor, real quick, before we close out. Drop into those comments some of the things that have stood out to you. As a matter of fact, do me one better. Go back and share this live, and then put in your caption something that stood out to you in hashtag voice lessons and the latter. Send this to a preacher, send this to a parishioner, send this to someone who is serious about this calling that we have been given. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us today. We're going to continue the conversation. I'm so excited about several of the leaders that have already agreed to be a part of these conversations in the weeks to come. And so I'm just excited. I think it's going to have so much value to so many people. And I'm really honored to be gleaning even as we go and being sharpened by the things that are being shared. I certainly have been blessed. So thank each of you. Listen, one of the things that he just mentioned was just the opportunity to invest in what we do with this. I want to be able to continue to do this work, and I want to do it to the best of my ability. I think one of the greatest joys I get is knowing that something is useful and helpful to people. The messages I get most excited about are the ones that I'm most convinced are going to help somebody, are going to empower somebody. And so seeing your feedback, seeing these responses, I started with a burden that grew into a vision to do it. And I'm being blessed by the fact that I feel like it's being a blessing to people. And so I want to give information there, an opportunity for those of you who would like to invest in what we're doing to be able to do this well. There's the Cash App information there, $ Revive Nation, our Zelle information there as well. You can just scan that code and it would give you what you need. For those of you that need visible writing to know what to type in, right there, Zelle Revive Nation, Cash App Revive Nation right there, and you can type that information in. Hopefully, it will be a blessing to you. Listen, every Wednesday we're here right here on the ladder. I'm so excited, man. I made a commitment at the beginning of the year to jump on with you guys every Wednesday and do my best to share revelatory conversations that bring elevation to your life and your leadership. And I believe this week has done that yet again. So I'm grateful for it. Again, go follow my brother. Go find Reverend Jarvis Williams. Find him on social media. Find the work that he's doing. Get behind the work that he's doing. And as he said, let's highlight those voices that are serious about this sacred calling that we've been given. All right. I pray you've been blessed. It has been my pleasure and privilege to be here with you. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Be blessed.